You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who art Ed?
We'll try to slice it.
Who art is Mr. Wood art Ed me?
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted Weekly Art History for All Ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood. Now, there's an old conspiracy theory saying that the rise of abstract expressionism is really a covert government psychological operation, that the CIA was pulling the strings and orchestrated the whole thing. But could that possibly be true? Today, we're diving into the surprising story of how the CIA secretly used Jackson Pollock and other American artists as weapons in the Cold War. It sounds wild, but there is some truth there. Now, this wasn't about spies telling artists what to paint, but it was a clever hidden campaign to shape how the world saw America. To get to why America's spy agency would care about messy, abstract paintings, we need to understand the world after World War II. It was the start of the Cold War, a tense global standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. They weren't just rivals in military power, they were fighting a war of ideas. The Soviets pushed their own style of art called Socialist Realism. Think heroic workers, strong leaders, everything looking perfect and pro-communist. They slammed Western modern art as garbage and claimed America was a cultural wasteland, all about money and nothing else. Early American attempts to counter this propaganda were often clumsy. So some people in the US government, especially within the newly formed CIA, thought, we need a smarter approach. We need to show the world, especially intellectuals in Europe, that America stands for freedom, creativity, and individualism. What better way than through culture itself? And just as they were figuring this out, a new art movement exploded onto the scene in New York City. I'm talking, of course, about Abstract Expressionism. This was the art of Janet Sobel, Jackson Pollock, Lee Krasner, Willem de Kooning, Mark Rothko. It wasn't about painting pretty pictures. It was raw, emotional, and energetic. Pollock famously dripped and flung paint onto huge canvases laid on the floor. It looked chaotic, maybe, but it felt intensely personal and incredibly free. And that was exactly what the CIA latched onto. This art seemed like the perfect symbol of American freedom. Why? Well, for one, it looked like the total opposite of the rigid, controlled Soviet art. It screamed individuality. It was also seen as uniquely American, the first major art movement born in the US, shifting the art world's focus from Paris to New York. Third, it was cutting edge. Modern, perfect for impressing those European intellectuals. And finally, because it was abstract, it wasn't obviously political, yet its whole vibe felt free. As one top CIA official involved, Tom Braden, later admitted, they realized this art, quote, made socialist realism look even more stylized and more rigid and confined than it was, end quote. The irony, of course, is that many of these artists actually held left-leaning views critical of the US government, but the CIA wasn't interested in the artist's personal politics. They were interested in the image the art projected. So the CIA sees this potential weapon, but how'd they wield it without anyone knowing? They couldn't just issue a press release saying, the CIA presents Jackson Pollock. Their main tool was a group called the Congress for Cultural Freedom, or CCF. It was set up in 1950. Now, publicly, it was an organization of writers, artists, and thinkers promoting freedom against totalitarianism. But secretly, it was largely funded and guided by the CIA. The money was cleverly hidden, passed through seemingly legitimate charities and foundations, and this gave the CIA some plausible deniability. They could support these activities without leaving their fingerprints on any of it. So what did they actually do for artists like Pollock? It wasn't like direct cash handouts. The artists themselves almost certainly had no idea that the CIA was even involved. The help was indirect, but still powerful. First, they funded major art shows. The CCF secretly helped pay for big, expensive exhibitions of American art to travel around Europe. The most famous was the New American Painting Tour in 1958 and 59. It brought Pollock, de Kooning, and others huge audiences in cities like London, Paris, and Berlin. Those shows were often organized by prestigious museums like New York's Museum of Modern Art. So the CIA, through the CCF, was working with institutions like MoMA. And MoMA already wanted to promote American art globally. Powerful figures connected with the museum, like Nelson Rockefeller, shared the government's anti-communist goals. So MoMA became a key partner, lending its reputation and expertise to these exhibitions, sometimes getting discreet financial help facilitated by the CIA network. The CCF also worked supporting cultural magazines. They funded influential magazines in Europe that published articles praising abstract expressionism, helping to build its reputation among thinkers and critics. Essentially, the CIA created an environment where this revolutionary American art could be seen, celebrated, and validated on the world stage, all while looking like it was happening naturally through the art world itself. Now, this secret cultural push lasted through the 1950s and into the mid-1960s. It had a real impact. Abstract Expressionism did become internationally famous. It helped cement New York as the new center of the art world. And it arguably did serve as effective anti-Soviet propaganda, showcasing American dynamism. But, and this is crucial, these artists were already making waves in the US. Pollock was featured in Life magazine back in 1949. Galleries, collectors, and critics were already supporting them at home. The art had genuine power. The CIA was just acting more like a booster, amplifying its impact internationally. So, how did this secret operation end? Like many secrets, it eventually leaked. In 1966-67, investigative journalists exposed the CIA's hidden funding of the CCF and other groups. This caused a huge scandal, which ended the CIA's grand, covert cultural patronage. Now, because this story is so juicy, spies, paint, some myths have popped up. So I want to go through a few of those and separate fact from fiction. Did the CIA invent abstract expressionism or make Pollock famous? No. That's at best an exaggeration. They capitalized on it and promoted it, but they didn't create it. Did the CIA agents secretly buy Pollock's paintings? Probably not. The support was institutional, funding shows, not direct market manipulations or commissions. Did the CIA secretly fund those big international exhibitions featuring Pollock? Yes, that's the core truth. Through the CCF and MoMA, they provided crucial backing. Was MoMA just a CIA front? That gets a bit murky. MoMA had its own goals, but there was a strong overlap of interests and personnel, and they were key partners in this cultural diplomacy. So they were possibly aware of government interest and benefiting from funding. So there you have it, the strange true story of how the CIA used wild canvases of Jackson Pollock and his fellow abstract expressionists as unlikely weapons in the Cold War. It's a fascinating glimpse into how, during the Cold War, both sides saw the power of art to capture hearts and minds. And the whole thing is just dripping with so much irony, as these highly idiosyncratic and deeply personal pieces were used for global politics and the promotion of culture all around the world, promoting freedom through secret operations. This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.